Hi, folks. Thanks for joining us. Yeah. Yay. We are over the moon to be celebrating Shelley Wong's debut collection here as she appears with Monica Sok. Give it up for Shelley and Monica. Yeah. It's happening. I know Shelley worked really hard on putting this collection together, and I really hope that you feel the work has paid off, and we're really excited to be a part of the celebration of it here. So thank you. Thank you for being our neighbor, and thank you for including us in this. I'm Cara, I'm the events coordinator for Green Apple Books, and to all of you online, we're broadcasting from Green Apple Books on the park here in San Francisco. I'd like to encourage you, I'll keep my business very brief because I want to get to the heart of the matter this evening, but I do want to encourage you to check out our full event calendar on our website. May is a particularly stunning month, and Shelley and Monica are kicking it off for us. May is a great month. Next week we have Ada Limon joining us and Mancho Alvarado. So we have two really great poetry nights next week already, if you're into that sort of thing. But we do have a full event calendar on our website that I would encourage you to check out. And all of our books are, all of our events are free unless stated otherwise. So that being said, please do buy books. Please do buy books from us. Please do buy books from these authors that are here tonight that we are celebrating. We have a special thing that we're doing tonight where if you want to purchase a copy of Monica's book, you can purchase it directly from her. So if you want to purchase a copy of Monica's book, it's at the back. There's a little Venmo code. It's super easy. It's super easy, so you can take that home, and you can purchase Shelley's book at the front register like any other transaction. We've made it all super easy and streamlined for y'all. We do ask that you keep your mask on if you are not imbibing, so between sips, please do keep your mask on. We're just trying to keep it like celebratory, but we also want to make things safer. COVID is still a thing, but we want to keep doing events like these. So thank you for being cool about it. And we also want to give our authors the grace to take their masks off so we can hear them better and be a little more comfortable in the space. So thank you for understanding. I wrote it down, so I'm going to read it from the page. I want to honor the fact that today is a difficult day for a lot of people living in this country, among many difficult days of people living in this country. And I know that there are a lot of places that you could be right now. And I so appreciate that you are out here joining us. Whether you're here despite the actions of the Supreme Court or because of the actions of the Supreme Court, I think you are in the right place. And I think that our being here together is an act of resistance. And it's easy to question the frivolity of putting on literary events in the face of major political events, or to question like the atmosphere of major political events. And I also really hate how many times I've had to question this over the years, especially how many times I've had to preface a reading like this, especially in the last 2 years. But I also believe in my very core that poetry is anything but frivolous, and that community like this is anything but frivolous. There are times when I have had to question in the face of like state violence, whether or not it's appropriate to continue with things as planned, depending on what the event was. But this was never a question for Shelley's launch, because Shelley and Monica's work in their particularity as works of beauty are inherently resilient, are inherently resistant, and are means of healing and moving forward, and are anything but frivolous. So I just wanted to acknowledge the state of the world, and that many of us, I'm sure, are angry and sad. I am very angry and sad, but I don't want to be any other place than here right now among all of you. And I am so ready to hear some poetry. And I'm so ready to hear these two brilliant people in conversation. So thank you for being with me right now and with all of us together. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the two readers that are joining us tonight. I'm going to introduce them one right after the other. First, Monica Sok is a Khmer poet and the daughter of refugees. She's the author of A Nail the Evening Hangs On, which is available for a very reasonable price at the back. And she teaches poetry as a Jones lecturer at Stanford University and is working on her next books of poetry and prose. So we have that to look forward to. She lives in Oakland, California. Please do welcome Monica Sok. And last but most certainly not least, Shelley Wong is the author of the chapbook Rare Birds. Her poems have appeared in American Poetry Review, Best American Poetry 2021, Kenyon Review, and New England Review. She's the recipient of a pushcart and fellowships from Kundiman, McDowell, and Vermont Studio Center. Currently, she's an affiliate artist at Headland Center for the Arts and lives here in San Francisco. Her collection, As She Appears, which is the winner of the 2019 Pemmit River Prize, is the reason we are here tonight. Please join me in welcoming Shelley Wong.
Am I just reading? And then you're, oh, I guess, yeah, I understand. All right. Ooh. Okay, hi. So I think I want to start off by reading a couple of poems that are new, but I also want to just say, Shelley, I'm so proud of you. And, you know, you're such a great sister to me. And you're just so special. Like, I love your poetry, and I've shared a lot of space with you at Kundiman, at Napa Valley Writers Conference, just here in San Francisco in the Bay Area. You really welcomed me here, and that is a kindness that I can never, ever forget. And it's a kindness that can only multiply more kindnesses through other people. So I just think you deserve the world. So congrats on your book. I'm just gonna go ahead and I kind of will perch myself up on here, but I don't know. Hopefully you can see my face and stuff. All right. This poem is called Long Life. Often I have knelt beside her as she lay on the white leather sofa, repeating to herself, maybe one day I die soon. All my life I've heard this and watched her continue living. She is here now with the cleaver, tenderizing meat. She squats on the kitchen floor and pounds the flesh. Today she needs my help, points me to the stone mortar. Heaviness is how she crushes garlic and lemongrass into paste, shallots and galangal. I wrap my hand around the pestle, and in this moment, I wish my mother were singing. Were she singing, she would have no pain. I wish she had 3 hearts, that only one was hard. If she had 3 hearts, she would have a long life. She would be saying, maybe I have a long life. I am traveling a great distance. I remember when the lights cut out in Prag Ang, the women kept cooking. 3 whole tomatoes fried in the dark. But it was not so dark where I lay in the hammock. The trees helped me to discern shadow from night. Knowing how to move without light, the women set the table. Did they live in the same way as they survived? Did they stop to wonder? I am too far from the women to ask them now. This poem is about being like a 2nd generation Khmer person. And it's complicated when you are the generation after that, those who had survived a genocide. 2nd generation Ars Poetica. My mother wanted me to stop sucking my thumb. I did not stop. On the nights she sliced the tips of red-tide chilies and rubbed them on my hands. Juice stung my knuckles. Small yellow seeds burned. It never occurred to me to stop doing what I wanted to do. I adjusted to the temperature of my mouth. I sucked and panted from the heat of the pepper. I sucked and stuck out my tongue for air. I was a stubborn kid. I was hella stubborn. I was like, I'm still gonna suck my thumb. This is a poem about sisterhood. So I, in relationship to Shelley, sisterhood. Here we go. It's a longer poem. I'll read this and then one more short poem, and then I'd love to welcome Shelley onto the stage. This is called Bodhisattvas at the Beach in November. You can bring half that Gouda in your fridge if you want. I'll bring a persimmon, my cutting board, and knife. But first, golden chrysanthemums at the farmer's market, cut at the stem and wrapped in butcher paper. What about this olive bread? Oh yes, get this olive bread. Cash only. Do you have cash? All right, fine. I have cash. On 580 towards San Francisco, we talk about the imbecile men who have rejected us lately. Sister, sex is nothing to be embarrassed about. Sister, the more you tell me about him, the less I like him. Hold my hand as we descend this hill of sand and hidden rocks. Bodhisattvas at the beach are each other's bitches, but not everybody's, though we vow to return many lifetimes until not one being is suffering, not even one blade of grass. Let's lay the mat somewhere. You pick a spot and drink margaritas. You change from hiking boots into sandals and bare feet. I still have all my socks. Bitches don't get cold. One sliced apple, 4 dates, 2 mandarins, a few square coconut crackers, the kind that comes stale, the kind my mom buys and leaves in my cupboard. I feel really bad for your mom. I feel really bad for my mom too. A white dog walks up to us. A black dog sits next to our shoes. They go when their owners call them back. Next time I want a basket to bring to the beach. What kind of basket? A wicker basket with the lid. Oh, and a separate basket for the wine bottle and wine glasses. I want a basket for fruit. I want that too. You and I with separate lighters burn incense sticks, our bodies huddling over the flames to keep them going against November wind. I'm done praying before you're done praying. Bitch, I'm envious that you're still praying. As you chant to yourself quietly, as a scent of sandalwood snakes towards us, I lie down watching 2 tiny crustaceans from wet sand skip onto the mat. What is your purpose? Do you mean my purpose in life? I'm a bodhisattva. I am too. I know. I'm not here to change anybody or tell anybody what's best for them. I know why the sun is out today, because yesterday it rained. Are you sure you want to wear boots instead of your sandals? I'm rolling up my pants to walk to the water. Whatever we try to prevent from happening will happen. The tide rushes towards us. It knows we are here. Now my pants are wet up to my calves and your boots are completely soaked, but the chrysanthemums are floating in the ocean, our small offering. I love you. I love you too. Let me put on my socks and sneakers to climb the steep hill with you, huffing and puffing and not without laughter. I'm getting better at accepting myself and others and the way things are. Look at the sunset beyond the pink ice plants. Yes, I see. Look at the spray painted bench high off the ground. It has character. If you say so, character. The air smells like basil or mint. I told you this at the beginning when we first got here, it's eucalyptus. I can't remember the last time I held someone's hand. Bitch, it was me in January before lockdown. It seemed like a lifetime ago. It was many lifetimes ago. I end it there. And the incredible Shelley Wong.
Monica, that beautiful offering to us all. Thank you everyone for coming out. It's really special to share this important neighborhood gem space together. And also just want to thank Green Apple and Carr for the tremendous organization. And also shout out to Jennifer, who's the best, my publicist, and also my press, Yes Books up in Portland, for this evening. Okay. For the living in the new world. There are so many ways to explore a forest, over clover clusters, past skunk cabbages, to a field where we listen for a ghost of song. The hypergreen periphery is the opposite of Los Angeles on fire. Any tree can become a ladder. These trees have too many branches, but it is not my place to revise them. I may be happiest improvising the language a body can make on a dance floor. We are just learning how female birds sing in the tropics. Spring insists we can build the world around us again. How has love brought you here? My head is heavy from the crown. And that also goes out to Monica, my co-queen for the evening.
Thank you, Shelley.
And so this boat travels through various different landscapes. And so we're moving from the forest to the ocean to a series of poems that take place on Fire Island, which is a barrier island under Long Island, and it's known as a famous vacation leisure island for LGBTQ folks. And I spent some time there when I lived in New York, but it was always kind of this disconnect because it's also like a very white space. But I had the opportunity to go back there in 2018 as an artist in residence for the Fire Island National Seashore, which is actually it's a very long island. So it was in the straight neighborhood, which was a little different experience. Yeah, and so that's kind of the heart of the book. So I'll read the first poem in that series, and it's called Department of the Interior. The tide calls the water of the body. Fire Island spans 32 miles and is drifting west. A maze cuts through the salt marsh, bridging bay to ocean. Where I wander is federal land, not a branched interlude of neon pool parties. I'm part of the sky paparazzi, dazed by its flaring. Rainbow, rainbow, rainbow. Stumbling in the sand, I find only the crash of return. I have come to this barrier island again, in the silence that follows a separation. Tomorrow, there will be 3 boats at various distances. 1 jet ski, lightning like a rumor of another realm. I try to divide 11 years, but cannot be held to exactness. My mind floats out to water, and I am living through this world once. Let's see, maybe 2 more. Let's see, it was last Friday, I had a sweet time reading at Chinese Culture Center, where there's this amazing exhibit by Kathy Liu. It's called Interior Garden. And she's this amazing ceramicist, and she has this room. I almost don't want to give it away, but it's relevant to the poem. And there's all of these eyes of like her grandmother's eyes and like Ruth Asawa's eyes. I think her mother's eyes on the wall, and there's also like a water element. So it's like they're all connected with these this piping of like tears, or yeah, and so you hear the water rushing with this room full of eyes, and it was just beautiful and so moving and also perfect as kind of like this visual sister to this poem. And also really cool because a lot of my book has to do with representation and art and intersections and trying to imagine myself in writerly artistic spaces. So this is called Monolids. In the ghostly movie palace, our eyes weep at our eyes, elated across the screen. Biggest little eyes. We are alive and ancient. Our eyes soften our eyes, clean or dressed in glitter and smoke. Our gaze facets kaleidoscopic. Our eyes are next door eyes, but sometimes our eyes want to stay unread. Two women glance at each other in a field, and no one says sanctuary or belonging. Tonight, the silver storm shakes like a hologram as we trace fires burning along the opposite shore. Our eyes close but do not go out. Our eyes illuminate our gathering, collide, reaching for our eyes. Let's see, I'll read two more. This one feels like one to read today. This is The Ocean Will Take Us One Day. A supermoon opened its brightness. My first memory is when the tide pulled me into its room. The last time the moon aligned so close to Earth was the year my mother came into being. On land, I can still lose my boundary, identifying with the ocean and not the lake. When you enter a city, check the elevation on the welcome sign. We saw over 300 Native tribes gather in North Dakota to protect a river. Saw the river transgressed, the police shooting water cannons in freezing weather. Was it worth it, what you did to live by the sea? Stay with me in bare light, undone. In recovery, two states drift toward one another and repel like soldiers. Rapture, yes, I felt that too. Who will stop a man from having his way? Breathless, a woman rests her head on her longtime companion as they listen to the waves. And I'll close with a spring poem, since this book is divided into seasonal sections, which is also kind of funny because it's kind of a nonlinear book, since I wrote the book over a decade, so it's a year and not a year. I just kind of made it kind of work thematically into thinking about fall and spring as kind of these seasons of transit, and then summer and winter as more hibernating rest periods. But it's interesting to see how the organization came together. So I'm going to read the last of a series called The Spring Forecast. Soon the sea. On the city corner, a tree asserts, I am every shade of pink. Oh, like the cherry blossoms, yeah. Like the inside. Dresses as transparent as watercolor. Doors flung open to receive gold arrows, stringing the strings. Skirts flare into bells. Hair like bougainvillea. Once a stop sign before the water. Once he traced the arch of her foot. Women pack their illuminations in butterscotch leather trunks, The sea rushes from the lighthouse. What bloom says no, her hand pedaling open. What you would do for pied-à-terre with tall windows and flower boxes. A head full of leaves. Too many bows to tie, and what of them? Pluck the bestsellers, sandal ready. A pointed foot, pointed feet. Come out, my queens of color. On the archipelago, you are almost new. Don't turn back. The women are walking again. They soak in their many perfumes, strings up. Soon the island. Thank you.
Thanks, Shelley. Thank you, Tia. Thank you so much. Hi. Hello. Oh, let me take my mask. Oh, yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for that incredible reading. Your publication date is next week, right?
Right.
What day is it?
So,
This is a pre-party. I'm
it's
super
May-
happy.
It's May 10th because Ada and Lamont will be here.
Yeah, I'm
So
so
we're
happy.
really excited.
Yeah, I'm so happy about that.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we're celebrating early because
Yes.
we're party girls.
The
So
pre-party.
we're partying for everybody. I love this book, and I love your poetry. I invited Shelley to come to my class at Stanford, my Asian American Pacific Islander poetry class, and it was a Lunar New Year. That's when you
Right,
came and
yeah.
visited over Zoom, actually. But
Right.
yeah, that was so special because you had like this amazing background.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's just for me to say, like, Shelley, you're so thoughtful as a person and as a poet, as someone who just deals with language in a way that is so tender and caring and careful. And I wanted to ask you, when you talk about having created this book over the course of 10 years, what was that journey like for you? I want to just kind of keep that a broad question, and then I might ask a follow-up. But what was the journey like for you in the process, in your process,
Yeah.
Big question,
It
but
is a big
I'll
question.
narrow it down after you answered it.
Yeah. So much to say.
Yeah.
I always loved poetry and writing, but I had to step away after undergrad. So I was in New York and I tried different things, but I felt called back to poetry. And so I'd say the book began when I started my MFA in 2011 at Ohio State, and I would say maybe a quarter of the book
Right.
was grad school poems. But yeah, I found over the decade that the book really moved into a series of mini series. I guess I see like 5 different mini series. Like some people have like project books. I think just maybe my interest in so many things, or just the time, brought me to like 5 different series, and I kind of orchestrated them into a kind of intertextual tapestry.
Yeah.
And so it sort of ended up being about art and sisterhood and the aftermath of a relationship across different landscapes, and kind of imagining and centering the experiences of women.
You're from Long Beach, California.
Right, you're from Lancaster,
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, East Coast and West Coast.
Right.
You're Klein.
I'm
Long Beach has the
Klein.
largest
They
Klein
do.
population.
So I was just gonna ask you, like, what was it like for you to, because you said most of the poems were written in grad school at Ohio State.
Right.
So what was it like for you to think about like California in Ohio?
Yeah.
Because I think for me, something I'm learning is that by traveling, I'm reconnecting with myself as a younger poet, like as someone in my 20s. He was always traveling, always going to poetry readings and doing stuff. And chasing other opportunities to just write. And I'm just wondering, like, what was it like for you to, write about California when you were in the Midwest?
Yeah, I think that's why there's so many ocean poems.
Yes,
For the first
which
time,
I love.
Yeah, because the first time I was, in the middle of the country, I was like, what's happening?
Wait, you were around cornfields and stuff like that?
Well, there
what
were
were
rivers.
the surroundings? Okay, there were
There
rivers. Yes, of
yes.
course.
The Olentangy River, shout
Mhm.
out, Columbus, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is a different kind of
Different landscape.
Like I have this other poem that's called I thought all sunsets were over water. Because I grew up in Long Beach,
Right.
that's just what it's like. No, it is not.
Yeah, when you're
yeah.
landlocked.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, sometimes I feel a little panicky. But yeah, I think
Wow.
but I did write so much because my cohort was super small, and so we were workshops every week.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why my forms, both visually and content wise, are so varied, because I was testing out different strategies with line, alignment, spacing on the page, because when you're workshops every week, it's kind of you just want it to be an experiment. You don't want the same feedback from the same people. And it's also kind of testing them.
Yes.
Let's see how they react to this.
Yes.
Let's see how they react to this. Yeah, so I was very generative in the Midwest. Yeah, so much more so than New York.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so what about
was,
New York then? Okay, and what about the revision process from place to place?
Yeah.
I'm just so curious about your actual physical journey of traveling through different spaces and how that influenced your revision process too. Because when I think of a poet who has done this work for over the course of a decade, I have hella respect for you and a lot of love because you were not rushing to get this book out. You took your time. This was not about a product for you. This was about real love and poetry, truth, very truth telling. And so respect. And I want to know, what was it like in New York then? What happened there?
Well, that was at the very beginning.
Give us some tea.
Well, that was before when I was applying to grad school.
Okay. Oh, okay. I see.
But I think it was just kind of the intensity of New York.
Yeah.
It's hard to write there.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I was there as a poet.
Yeah. And I always feel too to leave your house, it costs $20.
That's so true.
Because you're gonna spend money.
It's true.
Because everywhere is delicious.
Just to leave your door, it costs $20.
Exactly. Yeah.
Goodness gracious. Do you feel that way here in San Francisco though?
No.
No?
You can just go to the park and go home.
You know what? Just go to the park and go home, everybody.
Yeah. Or you could go to the Chinese bakery or a coffee.
I do love that.
The bun is,
What's your spot here? No, don't tell them. It's a secret. Whisper it in my ear.
Yeah, we're all friends.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But everyone else watching, tell me, where do you go? I'd love.
Oh.
I'll tell you where I go then.
Oh yeah. Well, I used to live 2 blocks from Golden Park. So that was kind of my refuge, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah.
But now I'm further south. But yeah, there's green space everywhere.
Yeah.
I also spend a lot of time in the Headlands.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an affiliate artist, and they have weekly dinners, which is really nice. And I've just been there since 2019 on and off.
Yeah.
So I know the landscapes. But yeah, I found that going to different residencies helped change and expand my work to be more site specific in writing about place while I was in the place, like the Fire Island poems, or the first one where I was in Connecticut, and it's amazing New England spring, which I never experienced. It was very raw forest.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was hard. But it was interesting though when I put all the poems together and trying to orchestrate it into a collection and seeing, okay, are there too many oceans?
Are there too many oceans? Never.
Am I doing the same ocean moves?
Oh yeah.
But it is interesting because I find the first 3 poems.
Yep.
There are oceans in different ways. Or I think I edited out the ocean in the first one. But yeah, the ocean shows up in pencil, and then the ocean shows up in Fire Island, and the ocean shows up at the beginning of Too Yellow with the Sun. So yeah, I think that was interesting in kind of casting and recasting and remixing images to like make sure
Yeah,
it was different moves and it made the experience
it
more
deepened it.
Yeah,
Yeah, transformative.
yeah,
That's a great
yeah,
word. Yeah,
yeah.
I
But
love
thank you,
that
yeah.
for sure. Well, I'm still waiting on the answer about the bakery you go to.
Oh, Mr. Bread is the Macau pastry, and they
Okay.
have like this custard, but then there's this also amazing baker. Oh, I'm forgetting his name. But he used to be a chemist, so he has like this like brilliant mind. And so he
Oh,
like
and he's a baker.
yeah,
I
he
love
created
that.
the mochi sauce. It's like these mini croissants, and they're like
Sounds
mochi
good.
flavor.
That sounds
And they're like
amazing.
mini ones, so you can like just test,
Just
like
test
invest
them out.
$1, and if you buy a lot, he'll give you like that for free.
The fact that you know that
Yeah.
Baker was a chemist at one
I
point
read the
is incredible.
Yelp reviews.
Got
did my
you, got you.
research, yeah.
I was like, what did
Yeah.
Shelley,
Yeah.
what did Shelley Wong ask this
Yeah.
person? And but you're like, no, I
Oh,
did my
Bruno. His name
research.
is Bruno.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bruno, okay.
Yeah. And he's only
Great.
open from like 7 to 2, like I want to say 4 days a week because he needs
Yeah.
to rest. Yeah.
See, I love that about you because like you're so, like I said, you're so thoughtful, you're so considerate. Like the other day I like to go to Rasta Coffee in in Berkeley because they have this really good like cardamom coffee. So
Nice.
I like that we're talking about the things that bring us comfort, because when we're writing a whole book, we need that tenderness because we're dealing with a lot of difficult conversations, right? And so to have a kind of consistency and a place to go, like, I was noticing my barista is like sad today. And I'm like, oh no, to this next day, they're pretty happy. But I'm not feeling that great, but like we're always in a relationship with each other. And I think that you are the kind of person who always, keeps that in mind. And I love that you think a lot about the nuances of the ocean and how to deepen that so that it does transform with each poem. Because what are we doing if we're writing the same poem? Right? So are there any landscapes that you have yet to traverse, in your imagination? Anything that you were like, I noticed this is not in here, but I'm curious about going there next in the next project, the next book? Because you have so much incredible, you begin with the forest, you like end on an island, at least during this one reading here at Green Apple, but you have a lot about the forecast in here. Like this is a whole world, and there's a lot of reclamation as well through these landscapes.
Thank you. Yeah. I have been thinking a lot about the second book, especially working at the headlands.
Ooh,
it gets
exciting.
kind of, it's getting real in terms of
Is it getting
landscape.
real?
It's getting real.
I mean, headlands too, just hills everywhere.
Oh yeah, but then there's like the legacy of the military sites.
That's true.
It's a very dark
It's
place,
real.
actually. It's haunted.
A lot of places here in the Bay Area.
For real.
Military.
I heard a story that the coastal Miwok, like they would go to that landscape to hunt and fish, but they would never live there. But if you were towards the end of your life, they would journey there. So I don't know if they sensed some energy there, like anticipation of the military coming, or it was always there.
Wow.
But yeah, there's definitely some vibes there. But for my next collection, it's a pretty different and rigorous process because I'm doing research on my great grandparents who immigrated to San Francisco in the late 1800s, and I'm writing about them in San Francisco and in Marin County, and also intersecting that with the environment and climate change, which is a huge.
It makes sense to me.
And thinking kind of about these different forces coming together and converging, and precarity, and imagining a sustainable future, and that looks like for folks of color. So I'm not really sure where it's going. But I did my first trip to the National Archives, which is pretty powerful to like hold in my hands, like the documents of my great grandparents being basically interrogated at Angel Island, like actual like typewritten pages is pretty incredible.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, and like actual like their wedding banner from China, like was part of the file.
Wow.
I would love to have that translated. So I can't
Wow.
read it, but yeah, that's kind of like
Wow.
where it's hopefully going. Yeah.
I made a face at Angel Island.
Yeah.
We had an experience.
Yeah,
We experienced an experience together
Yeah,
at
we
Angel
did.
Island.
Yeah. The experience. Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah,
here's the
yeah,
thing is
yeah.
like, well, I can share when someone tells me to read a poem in Chinese and I am not Chinese, what happens is Shelley Wong will take my bag and be like, I got you, girl, and you can do your thing. And then, I'm not even going to go into all of it, but we were disrespected there. So so knowing that experience and not having to get into all of it, right? But knowing what we go through as women of color through the world, right? And you were talking about how to build a sustainable future. How is it that you ground yourself as a queer woman of color, as a queer Asian American woman too? Like I want to give you the opportunity to really maybe go there if you feel comfortable going there too.
Yeah, I think it's really having a strong sense of grounding in who you are and who you want to be in community with. And I just find like now, like I crossed the 40 line, like in a pretty good sense.
You do not look 40.
Thank you. But like
you look fabulous,
oh,
obviously. You're timeless. There's no age.
But yeah, like when you're like across the 40, I feel like like where to put your energy and where to move on and say that is not for me. But yeah, and just to gather in community that you love and that loves you, and to rest, to hydrate, to stretch, to nap, just to like give yourself permission. Yeah, to just like self-care.
Wow. Against so much that tells you not to rest. Right. That tells you to keep working and become a machine. That tells you to get trapped here, in the cycle of violence. I think that, poets can be so undervalued, especially in this country, but in other places, like people know their poems, it's interesting, but I think that the truth grounds us. I think poetry grounds us, and your poetry grounds me. I read your poems. Like there was one night I was like, I can't sleep. And I read a Shelley Wong poem. It was the first poem in the book. I love this poem. It's a poem that, really holds me. And it's such a gentle kind of, it's a gentleness for the living in the new world, and there's that title evokes the kind of threshold that you as the poet are aware of for the living in the new world. There's always this forward motion in your words, in your language, in your craft. How has love brought you here is a question that is enormous and so complex, though it is so, it may seem simple, but actually the question is difficult as well as the answer. And the answer, there should be no single answer. It's the question that you must ask yourself over and over again. So I'm floored by the ways that you ask questions.
Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting because that question is actually a response to this beautiful but also painfully so poem by Jack Gilbert, where he's talking about his then partner Linda Gregg, who's also a poet, and the poem goes something like, Linda is crying like a wounded animal and there's nowhere to turn. And he's also yelling at her though, which now I'm just like, do better, Jack Gilbert. Linda Gregg.
Be better, Jack Gilbert.
But the last line is, it is hard to understand how we could have been brought here by love. And I just found that floored me because I have been in that moment in a relationship where you just don't know how you got there. And I was just like floored by that as an ending. Yeah. But then I wanted to turn that around as a question of the love that has brought you here.
See, that's
And
transformative.
not romantic love, but love.
Love,
Like the expanse.
the all-encompassing
Yeah,
love.
and not that painful
Yeah.
love of child comfort feelings. But yeah, turning it around.
Not that painful Jack Gilbert love.
Yeah. Everyone
Put that on
Linda
a tote
Gray.
bag for
Yeah.
me.
Linda Gray. Okay. Yeah.
It's gonna have what Shelley Wong said on about Jack Gilbert, and then on the other side, Linda Gray. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. You're so
it's
funny.
Mixed feelings. I do love the Great Fires. Yeah, mixed
Right.
feelings,
I like
mixed
the Great
feelings.
Fires too, but
Yeah.
sometimes, I mean,
Like half.
sometimes
of
it
the Great
hurts
Fires.
too.
Yeah.
Half of it.
Yeah. Half of
Mm.
it. Yeah.
I know what poems you're talking about. But that's the funny part. So can we deepen that a little? Do you want to go there? Because it's like there are poems that I love, and then the people behind the poems that I don't love very much.
Very much so.
You know, sometimes I am not a fan of. I don't need to get to know someone, but then like I find out all this shit. I'm like, oh, I can't listen to your music. Oh, I can't read your poems.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how to feel about this. You know.
Yeah, totally.
How do you navigate that?
Yeah. One of the poems that I really gravitated towards in undergrad was "The Day Lady Died" by Frank O'Hara.
Right.
But yeah, I referenced him because he was run over by a buggy and died on his poem. But yeah, he has some problematic / racist poems. So again, another example of I like this, but then do I as a person and these poems?
Right.
And that's why I feel like it's so important in doing, like, for me, like a lot of learning and unlearning, and then finding our own canons, and like moving past the literature that were given and assigned to us in college, graduate school, and I feel like I'm excited to do that work to expand my knowledge and find the generations above me and below me and who are living today and thriving. And it being API month, there's so much abundance happening, so much history, so much community, and such a range of aesthetics and lineages and histories to connect with. So I'm looking forward to doing that work.
Amazing. I love what you said about abundance too, because I mean, when you form that question, how has love brought you here? You doing that in response to a different line, a line that was coming from despair, but you ask it out of hope and a futurity that you're building towards. That's why I love your writing so much, and that's why I love that you took your time with it, because these poems, we need these poems. I have so many other questions. I want to know if there's anything you are yearning to talk about that maybe you're interested in. I mean, I have a million questions for you, but I don't know. Anything that you are like pining to talk about?
Let's see. I guess I want to just say how, especially since I have my work colleagues here, how
hey, work colleagues.
I'm a poet with a day job.
Yes.
I work as university staff with amazing colleagues, and I just want to shout out folks, especially folks 40 plus with dreams and ambitions, and it's never too late. Just want to I just feel like like you said, like, you can take your time, and I'm so glad I waited, took my time to create this book, because I'm so happy with how it turned out, this beautiful cover, and then also just in terms of finding community and putting on and being able to be with you. And so I find that I'm just so thankful, because I find that I always struggle to find mentorship along the way, and I feel like you, even though you're like, I don't know, 10 years younger, but like there's so many younger people that I see as like mentors and like sisters. I just feel like so grateful.
I'm so grateful too. That's so sweet of you. Thank you so much, Shelley. But I just, when you talk about sisterhood, it's very sacred, and that's endless. It's limitless. And I think when we can talk about the ways that we love each other, how has love brought us here, you know, you and me. I mean, the thing I know is that when I came to Oakland, Shelley was like, I left you a gift card at Piedmont Springs. You should go at the to the hot tub at night. And it was like and I had such a beautiful romance with myself because my sister Shelley said, here, I want you to experience this. And I never forgot that kindness. Like I mentioned earlier during my own reading before you came up, that, you know, your kindness multiplies. It's made me the person I am today too, you know. It's real love. Thank you. I don't know if we need to wrap up at all. Can we talk for like 3 more hours? I don't know.
Maybe 5.
Save 5 more hours. Okay. Yes, audience questions. Let's do you want to do 3 questions? Does anyone have a question that you're like yearning to ask? Yeah, like
Yes, Michael. Thank you.
I'm wondering, because
what surprised you about finalizing the book,
The final version.
the final version of the book?
I think that I was hopefully able to make 10 years of poems into like a intertextual 4-season collection that works, hopefully. Yeah, and just kind of like having the threads of
Yes.
landscape, art, queer love, Asian American celebration, come together. And I think, especially the organization part, because I wasn't sure how to navigate that ebb and flow to the title.
So like you found that it was like it connected very magically once you had put it together, poem after poem. I love that. It's magical. They know what they want. The poems know what they want.
I found like the first was kind of like this intimate art space, and then it moved out into the landscape, into the summer, and then the fall was kind of like these encounters. And then I always joke like the last section is like awkward dating, spring fever, because it's spring. We're all trying.
We're all trying with the awkward dating.
Seeing what's out there. Okay.
What other questions do y'all have? Don't be shy. Yes. Hi. Oh, we love you. It's good to see you. You're like so cool in the audience right now. You look hella cool.
New Jersey in the house.
Look at your roll up. And your pants just rolling up. Oh, sorry, I just dropped your book. No, with that. What's your question?
So my question is, having worked on the book for really like a question for any project, especially project. What did you decide?
I feel like
That's a good question.
right. Well, I will say that even though like I was working on it the whole time, I didn't exactly wait. I was submitting it to publishers, but I was submitting too early.
I see.
So I do feel like it wasn't until the Fire Island poems, which were more personal and site specific and tangible, that were really kind of the heart of the book. And so I think that really is kind of the last move that I needed to make for this collection. And then also the 4-part series of seasons. I had the spring and the fall and the summer, but I needed the winter. And so that was like the very last poem I wrote. But yeah, I think it was really that Fire Islands series, which kind of tied everything together in terms of talking about the queer through relationship and it's after that
Mhm.
with greater presence in the book.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, follow up.
What do you, in like what ways do you feel like you have to be the person that you are, right? Personal, intimate poems that you felt comfortable sharing?
I love
Yeah,
that
yeah,
question.
thank you.
Do you know? Can you repeat that?
Oh, yeah,
That's such a good question.
So when did you feel that you became
The
a
person
person
to write the book,
to write
pretty much.
those types of intimate, more emotional poems, or how? Yeah. Well, I think definitely writing the poems of my chapbook, Rare Birds, where I used the persona of Frida Kahlo. That was kind of my cheat method to write about someone else's relationship that had difficulty when Frida Kahlo divorced Diego after he had an affair with her sister. And I was writing about that breakup grief,
Mhm.
really, because I felt like I couldn't access, or it was too private for me to kind of share a more personal speaker that was a queer Asian woman. And so I think writing those poems in the chapbook and then just time passing made me more comfortable to slowly write more of the queer poems that were more personal. And there are some that I wrote that aren't in the collection, that I felt I just wanted to write them for me. But I still feel those here. And then I also think the silence of some of the relationship is kind of an echo and a presence in kind of keeping that privacy in the book too. And also kind of speaking to both the love and also the complications and the more painful parts of the relationship. But kind of leaving the specifics unsaid as like a private see. Yeah. Any last question?
I know there are some questions in the back. Yes, I
Yeah.
knew it.
Yeah.
Hello. No, I don't know this
Okay.
person, but hello. What's your question? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And can I tack on, like, maybe deepen that too a little more, is like what were your influences? Like that's kind of that's
Yeah.
like what was your motivation? What were your influences? But also I noticed that the last poem in the book, which I talked to you about earlier, was is pandemic spring.
Right.
And so when Emily was asking about like what it took for you to become that person to write this book and to go towards that intimacy, like pandemic spring is a really like, I'm excited to read it first of all, but what influenced you? What influenced you?
I think I was really writing the poems. Well, it was sort of meta because I was writing the poems to kind of enact my own becoming as a queer Asian American poet that was figuring out how to be as a writer without many models or mentors. And then I was also writing the poems that I wanted to have as a younger person and couldn't find. And I was influenced, I'd say, by Eduardo C. Quirrell's The Lightning, especially in terms of the content and lineation and space on the page, and thinking about vulnerability and tenderness together. In terms of thinking about relationships and separation, Stag's Leap by Sharon Olds is huge. And also my grad school advisor, shout out Kathy Fagan, whose amazing book Sycamore really has a lot of and this versatility and play and lyric association, which I really gravitated towards, and you can see her influence very much in my work. And then let's see. And also I'd say Morgan Parker in terms of like bringing in contemporary pop culture influences.
I love that.
So yeah, just
Yeah.
kind of like that range and abundance.
I love all of those
Yeah.
influences, like
Yeah.
all of that. I can see it all in the book,
Yeah.
especially like the Frida
Nice.
poems with the Frida poems and Slow Lightning too, which is so in
Yes,
conversation.
yes,
So that's
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. And how did the pandemic spring poem, like when did you write that?
Oh, that was for Poetry Northwest. They wanted
Oh.
to write like a prose postcard. And so that was the fall or the
Wow.
spring of 2020. And
Wow.
so that was when I was doing my walks in Columbia Park. And so
That's right. The green
Um,
spaces.
so yeah, I was kind of just speaking towards how everything was being amplified in terms of being an Asian woman and
Yeah.
this hyper visibility. Because so much about this book is about being seen and perceived and turning that back into an articulation and assertion of being and becoming and as she appears.
That's right.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
Thank you.
yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. Do you want to end here? Or do you want to also, I don't know, I want to just keep going, but
Yeah.
I want to say thank you
Yeah.
so much to everyone. Shelley, congrats on this incredible poetry collection.
Thank you so much.
I'm so proud of you and just so thrilled that this book is out in the world. Please get a copy. Everyone watching at home, everyone in the audience, please support this incredible poet, my sister Shelley Wong. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you.